In Austria, a new lockdown, this time only for the unvaccinated. It's the first country to impose such a measure. It went into effect last Monday, then immediately it provoked a serious backlash. The rules affect about 2 million residents. Police were out patrolling the streets, checking papers to ensure compliance. The government said about 15,000 people were stopped and asked for their papers in the first 24 hours of the mandate, and about 120 fines of up to $1,600 per violation were handed down. COVID cases and deaths have been rising in Europe in the so-called fifth wave of the pandemic. But Austrians, it seems, are rejecting a segregated society, as we will hear from our guest. Joining us now from Vienna is Dr. Markus Franz, a former member of parliament in Austria and an eminent doctor of internal medicine. Dr. Franz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Good evening.
Good evening. Good day, good morning.
Oh, good morning, good morning.
So as the debate rages here in the United States and Europe and elsewhere about the effectiveness of lockdowns and vaccine mandates, the headlines from Austria struck some people as a bit alarming, a lockdown just for the unvaccinated. Could you start off by making us a little bit clear on what the rules are of that lockdown?
So we had, in the beginning of this week, we had a lockdown for the unvaccinated, which meant that the unvaccinated people were not allowed to go to any bars or restaurants or to join their fitness clubs, their gyms, their sporting facilities. So they were locked down, only allowed to go for shopping for necessary goods, and the schools stayed open. But the children had to test every second day, a PCR test. This caused many protests, and the social atmosphere is very tight and somehow aggressive, and the people are really annoyed in Austria. Even the people who are vaccinated, most of them do not think that it is right to have two kinds of populations in Austria, the bad unvaccinated and the good vaccinated. On Friday, the parliament decided to impose a lockdown on the whole country, starting from Monday for 20 days. After that, the lockdown will be for the unvaccinated, and for the other people, for the vaccinated people, we will see within the next 3 weeks.
So do you see that as a response to the protests or to the COVID situation in the country?
Both. We have two states in Austria which have serious problems with the hospitals. The hospitals are full. The protesters will protest anyway, and I think they will even protest more because government always promised to avoid a lockdown, and now they do the opposite, which they promised a few days ago.
And let me ask you, in Austria, is natural immunity recognized? You can get a test or vaccinated. Is natural immunity recognized?
It is recognized, but it is not officially. This is a big problem for the people who had the disease, because they have to be vaccinated now. And most of them say, I had the disease, I'm healthy now, why should I get vaccinated? But they have to be vaccinated to gain their freedom.
So as a politician and a medical doctor, do you think the lockdowns in the past have been effective in Austria? What's been the impact?
I think the first lockdown last year in March was effective because we didn't know what will come. Then we didn't know what is with this virus. Will it kill a lot of people? How dangerous is it really? We didn't know very much about it. Now we know that the mortality is about 0.9% now, and we know that a lot of people do not get sick. We know it is not that dangerous as we thought it is. It is dangerous, especially for older people, for people at risk who suffer from diabetes, who are very obese. These people should get the vaccination. People were not satisfied with the kind of information they got all the time. And in the end of springtime, our Chancellor Kurz, who is not Chancellor anymore, said in summer there will be an end of the pandemic. And this was not the case. The pandemic started again, and a lot of people, a lot of experts warned about the oncoming wave, the so-called fourth wave. And so people started thinking, they told us to get vaccinated, and then we get the fourth wave. How come? The people they lost their faith and their belief in the political messages, and this caused a lot of chaotic and adverse emotions in the population in Austria. People in Austria are making comparison with totalitarian times, and especially people who came to Austria from the former Eastern communistic countries like Slovakia, like Czech Republic, like Poland, with a lot of doctors here from these countries and a lot of workers, and they all say this is very similar to the system which they fled from before 1989, before the wall in Berlin fell down, and they are all afraid of these developments, and the emotions are frightened and irritated and somehow aggressive too.
And I understand there's a new political party that's specifically organized around fighting the lockdowns and COVID policies. Is that, do you think, going to be a political force?
It is a small political force in one state of Austria with 9 states. They won about 7% in the last election in the so-called Upper Austrian part. This party will grow, I think, because people are so unsatisfied with this sort of chaotic informations by the politicians. I have to say, the doctors who have to solve these problems, it is a medical problem, but the politics involved too much in this medical problem, and so we have a mix-up from medical measures and political measures, and the doctors have no right or no possibilities nearly no possibilities to do their work properly.
That's been your personal experience as a physician?
Yes. So we as the frontline doctors, we have very small possibility to influence the politics. The mass of the sick people and the infected people is treated by the doctors out there. They don't have no guidelines. Should they treat and what medication should they take? So the political power is too big, because the politicians want to solve these problems by themselves, but they can't.
All right, so we've got to wrap up, but one last very important question. Are you thinking of getting back into politics?
Not now. I'm waiting.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Be sure to watch the entire episode, now available exclusively at epochtv.com, a new completely censorship-free premium subscription platform. Brought to you by the Epoch Times. See you there.